So let's talk about angles. We've got two assignments today. Both of them are dealing with angles. Now, the first one is just basic terminology, which we'll go over here in a second. The second one has a little bit with measuring. Again, a lot of it's just the basics, though, so it shouldn't take too long. Now, when we talk about angles, the technical definition of an angle is that it's formed by two rays with the same endpoint. So, again, you have to put up with my kind of not very good artwork here. So here's an endpoint. Let's say we've got a point A on here, maybe there. We got a point B, and we got a point C. All right, now let's talk about this. We notice there's two rays here. I've got ray BA and ray BC. Both of those are rays on my angle. Now, notice they both share the same endpoint B, but that all makes sense. Hopefully that's pretty obvious. Now, let's talk about how we notate an angle. We've talked about with rays that, if I want ray BA, I put B and then A, and then I put an arrow always to the right. So that's how I would notate the ray BA. But how do I talk about this angle? Well, actually, there's a couple correct ways to talk about angles. One of the ways is to do something like this. We would say angle B. And notice instead of putting the angle sign on top, like we might do with a line or a ray, we're just going to put the angle out front. And we're going to choose B because that is our vertex. And our vertex is the shared endpoint. So our vertex here of angle ABC is angle B. Or our vertex is B, so we call this angle B. However, there's two other ways I could name this angle. I could also name this angle A, B, C. So with rays, lines, segments, each of those need two letters in order to notate it. So I'm going to have, BA as a ray. It needs two letters. With angles, you can have one with just the vertex, or three with all three letters. Notice, though, that the vertex here needs to be in the middle. So I could notate this one other way. I could go angle C, B, A. And notice all three letters once again. But again, here, B needs to be in the middle of the three letters. Now, this is very important. I know it's a simple thing. We're going to run into this all the time in geometry. We're constantly referring to angles. And if you can't tell, if I have ABC and you think it's angle A because it comes first, then you're going to be in for a difficult time this year. So this is something really important. It is very basic, but something we're going to run into a lot this year. Now, let's talk about this. Why would we have two different names to call this angle? Why can't we just call it angle B? That seems simple enough, right? Well, here's why you can't just call it angle B. Let me clear out some of the space. Let's start with a new angle. What if I've got an angle that looks something like this? I've got an angle like that. Okay, so that's looking pretty normal, and I've got A, B, and C. And then what if I've got another one out here, another ray, and that is angle D? How am I supposed to talk? What if I want to talk about this little section, this angle right here? Well, if I say angle B, do I know what I'm talking about? Or do you know what I'm talking about? Am I talking about this little section at the top, the little one at the bottom, or I could be talking about the whole thing? You don't know. So when we have multiple angles sharing the same endpoint, this is where it's really helpful to use three letters with our angles. So what we could call this angle was angle A, B, D. Notice how the three letters help me define exactly which angle in this whole thing that I actually want to focus on. In this case, it's this top one because that's where I have my little curved mark. There is one other thing we do need to talk about angles. When we've got, many other things, but one thing for today. When we've got a little mark like that, if I have another single mark somewhere else, what that means is that those two angles are the same size. They're congruent. Congruent means they're the same size. They're, in a sense, equal, but shapes. Equal shapes, in a sense, is a way to think about it. So these two would be two equal things. I don't think you're going to run into that today, but if you see things being congruent, that's what they mean. It means they're the same size. Let's look a little bit more at angles. These are some basic terms. Acute angle is less than 90 degrees. A right angle is 90 degrees. So remember, 90 degrees looks something like that. And you end up with the little box in the corner, just like that. That means 90 degrees, or you might say 90. So an acute angle is something that is less than that, and this should all be review, hopefully. And then an obtuse angle is something more than 90 degrees, so you could have something like this would be an obtuse angle. But hopefully all of that is review. So you should be good now to go ahead and do the IXL and also the delta math relating to angles.